This is the story of how Britain just exploded. 300,000 people filled the streets. The government stands accused tonight. They allegedly stole homes from veterans. This was done to profit from a £2.4 billion migrant housing scheme. And tonight, the Prime Minister cannot leave Parliament. He requires a police escort. This is the documented truth they tried to bury. It began quietly in 2023. The Home Office launched an emergency migrant housing plan. It sounded compassionate. It promised help for those in need. It was presented as a humanitarian response. But look closely at the money. 5 construction firms won the contracts. All 5 were major donors. They gave money to Keir Starmer's 2024 campaign. One company was especially important. It was Westbridge Contracts Limited. They gave £2.7 million to his campaign. Weeks later, they received £620 million. This was for hotel and housing deals. The total program is now valued at £2.4 billion. It is now under criminal investigation. But here is where the story gets truly dark. The contracts were not just given to donors. They were allegedly written for them. Leaked files show this shocking fact. Westbridge executives helped draft the tender requirements. They designed rules only their company could meet. Clauses were buried deep inside 400-page documents. These clauses guaranteed profits up to 40%. There was no competitive bidding. There were no oversight committees. It was just handshakes and enormous bank transfers. We heard from a key whistleblower. They were a former procurement officer. They spoke only on condition of anonymity. This source revealed that internal objections were raised. Those who questioned the process were quickly reassigned. Some were dismissed outright. The silencing was clear. 3 senior civil servants refused to sign off. They were forced into early retirement. This happened within 6 weeks. The paper trail is damning. Emails were found. They were between the Westbridge CEO, Jonathan Hartley, and senior Home Office officials. They show meetings scheduled at private homes. They met at off-site locations. There are whispers of encrypted messaging. There are reports of burner phones. This was not just suspicious behavior. It was criminal behavior. The human cost is immense. Over 15,000 social homes were cleared for this scheme. These homes belong to veterans. They belong to pensioners. These are the people who built this country. They fought for this country. They paid taxes for 50 years. They believed their safety nets would remain. Meet Thomas Reid. He is 67 years old. He is a Falklands War veteran. He lost his left leg in 1982. He was defending Britain on Mount Longdon. 2 months ago, he received a cold letter. It was a reallocation order. His home was being taken. It was for migrant resettlement. There was no consultation. There was no appeal process. Just a government stamp and a 30-day eviction notice. Today, Thomas Reid sleeps in his car. He is outside the home they took from him. It is the same home he lived in for 14 years. It was modified for his disability. Rents were paid for by veterans' charities. He spoke to reporters. He said, "I gave my leg for this country. Now I sleep in my car." He added, "They house people who arrived last month in 4-star hotels." He is not alone. Thousands of veterans and pensioners were removed. They were taken from housing lists. Doors were locked. Names were erased. Eviction letters bore the government seal. They were delivered by private security firms. They were not proper bailiffs. Margaret Collins is 73. She is a widow. Her husband died in Northern Ireland. She was removed from her Camden flat. She had lived there for 22 years. She now sleeps on a sofa at her daughter's home. Her belongings are in storage. She cannot afford the storage fees. David Patterson is a Gulf War veteran. He suffers from PTSD. He was evicted from supported housing in Leeds. He has been missing for 3 weeks. His family fears the worst outcome. Meanwhile, 42 luxury hotels are now in use. They are across southern England. They house over 32,000 asylum seekers. Taxpayers fully fund this. Guests receive breakfast buffets. They can use spa services. There are private security guards. Some hotels charge the government up to £150 per person per night. This is triple the standard rate. Outside those very hotels, pensioners are sleeping in cars. Veterans are on park benches. British citizens who served their country are now invisible. They are invisible on their own streets. The cost is not just money. It is a profound moral cost. It is a betrayal. It has shaken the foundation of the social contract. Then, everything changed. A leak became an earthquake. 217 pages of confidential Home Office files were delivered to the press. They exposed the hidden truth. Bank transfers were traced to offshore accounts. Referral fees were disguised. They were labeled as consulting payments. Encrypted messages were found. They showed coordination. They were between Westbridge executives and the Prime Minister's inner circle. One message was dated 3 weeks before the program launched. It was chilling. It read, "Package approved, TM on board, proceed with Phase 2. Another message was found. It was from a Home Office official. It went to a Westbridge director. It confirmed the cruelty. Veterans housing stock identified. Low political risk. Proceed. Low political risk. They actually wrote that down. They thought taking veterans' homes was low political risk. The moment those files hit the internet, Britain erupted. It was not a slow rise in anger. It was an explosion. Anonymous sources suggest the leak came from within the Home Office. Career civil servants were horrified. They could not facilitate this any longer. The files were uploaded to multiple platforms at once. This made a complete takedown impossible. Within 3 hours, the documents were downloaded over 2 million times. Journalists, lawyers, and citizens began digging. They cross-referenced contracts. They traced payments. They built the case. By morning, the streets were full. Manchester, Birmingham, Leeds, Bristol, London, Newcastle, Glasgow, Cardiff. This was not a party-organized protest. This was organic rage from the nation. Crowds surrounded Downing Street. Police in riot gear held shields. Hundreds of thousands chanted, "Resign, resign." Flares turned the night red. Protest organizers pleaded for restraint. They wanted the focus to stay on the truth. Protesters climbed the gates of Whitehall. They carried banners. One read, "Homes for Britain, not for deals." Veterans in wheelchairs blocked the road. Pensioners sat arm in arm across the road to Parliament. One banner showed Thomas Reed's face. It was next to the Westbridge logo. The caption was simple, "Who sold Britain?" Over 480 arrests were made on the first night. Dozens of officers were injured. But the chants did not stop. They grew louder. More cities joined in. By day 2, over 50 towns and cities had active, angry protests. Inside number 10, the staff pulled the blinds. The walls shook from the noise. Security was tripled. The Prime Minister cancelled all public appearances. This was no simple political argument. This was a constitutional crisis in real time. The government was under threat. Then the government did something shocking. It confirmed every suspicion. Late that night, the Home Office issued an internal order to delete all files. They wanted to scrub communications. They wanted to remove email threads. They wanted to erase server logs. At 2 a.m., over 11,000 government records were erased in just 4 minutes. This act of destruction was recorded. A whistleblower IT administrator captured the screen logs. He uploaded them to secure servers abroad. Digital forensics experts confirmed the deletion. It came from inside Downing Street. It came from terminals with the highest security clearance. This was not a rogue staffer. This was a coordinated destruction of evidence. It was sanctioned at the very top. The Prime Minister's office quickly blamed foreign interference. Russia and China were mentioned. They are the usual suspects, but the evidence contradicts this. The deletion commands came from authenticated government accounts. The timing was immediately after the leak went viral. It was too convenient to be an accident. Opposition MPs demanded an emergency investigation. Starmer's allies blocked it in committee. They cited national security concerns. This was a translation for pure panic. A leaked text from a senior advisor was revealed. It went to a cabinet member. It read, "If we go down, we take the Home Office with us. Scorched earth." Another message stated, "Destroy everything. Legal can't defend what doesn't exist." The cover-up was worse than the crime. Everyone could see it. Within 48 hours, emergency orders were issued. Police were given expanded powers. Curfews were imposed in London, Leeds, and Birmingham. Social media posts about Downing Street were flagged. They were labeled as potential unrest. Some accounts were suspended without explanation. Police raided homes of protest organizers before dawn. Dozens of veterans were arrested. They were charged under the Public Order Act. The charge was conspiracy to cause public disorder. This included Thomas Reed. 3 officers were filmed on live television. They dragged the one-legged Falklands veteran from his car. It was 5 a.m. News helicopters captured everything. Him pleading, officers shouting. The indignity was broadcast to millions. The government called it restoring order. They claimed they were protecting democracy. The people called it war. A war on dissent. A war on truth. A war on the very citizens the government serves. By nightfall, tear gas filled Trafalgar Square. Drone footage showed the police lines collapsing. They were overwhelmed by the weight of bodies. The flag over Parliament was barely visible through the smoke. But a turning point arrived. The violence began to fade. This was not due to police tactics. Veterans at the front of the crowds urged for calm. "Don't give them an excuse," one shouted. "Our weapon is truth. Stay peaceful. Stay strong." Inside Parliament, the political walls cracked. During an emergency session, MPs screamed across the chamber. "Where is the Prime Minister? Why isn't he answering? What is he hiding?" Starmer entered under police escort. 6 officers flanked him. His face was pale, his jaw was tight. Opposition benches erupted. "Resign, resign. Answer for your crimes." An opposition member held up the Westbridge Ledger on live TV. He read the comparison. $2.7 million in donations. $620 million in contracts. You bought the government and sold the people. In the public gallery, veterans stood in silence. One veteran raised his prosthetic leg above his head. Cameras captured the image. It went viral instantly. The room froze. Even the Prime Minister's allies looked uncomfortable. The symbolism was too powerful. It was too damning to ignore. Then came the vote. It was a no-confidence motion. It failed, 287 to 251. But it was incredibly close. 5 members of Starmer's own party voted against him. Within hours, 5 cabinet members resigned anyway. This included the Home Secretary, also the Housing Minister. 2 junior ministers resigned. A senior advisor also left. It was a massive political collapse. Financial markets crashed overnight. The pound dropped 4% in Asian trading. Downing Street went dark. Lights off. Curtains drawn. No statements. But another thing happened. It was unexpected. The protests stopped. They paused. It was not a defeat. Someone suggested silence for 67 seconds. 1 second for each year of Thomas Reed's life. Hundreds of thousands of people went utterly silent. Not a sound was made. Then someone whispered, "For Britain." The chant began again. It was unified. It was unstoppable. It was mournful, not angry. It was determined. Flowers and Union Jacks appeared in the streets. Messages were written on them. We remember, never forget, Britain first. This was no longer about party politics. It was about the soul of a nation. It was about survival. It was about the broken contract. Vigils were held. Pensioners were invited into strangers' homes. Fundraisers for displaced veterans raised millions of pounds in 48 hours. Britain was angry. But most importantly, Britain was awake. The definitive impact is this. Prime Minister Starmer's inner circle has been gutted by 5 high-level resignations. His party is fractured. The criminal investigation is expanding. It confirms the deep rot at the core of the $2.4 billion Westbridge contract. This simultaneously sparked the largest, most sustained non-partisan street protests in modern British history. This has fundamentally shifted the social contract. This is a correction. It is painful. It is necessary. It is inevitable. As the smoke clears over Westminster, one line remains on every banner. It is on every placard. It is on every wall. We are Britain and we remember. The next chapter of this crisis is due to unfold very soon. Click on our video link titled The Secret Starmer Dossier. Every email, every offshore account now to see the full 217-page document leak in detail, which is the undeniable proof that started it all, before the government successfully forces its complete removal from the internet.